At the end of World War II, the French army was in a pretty poor state. In an effort to rebuild its armoured forces, the French army took on a bunch of LVTs, standing for Landing Vehicle Tracked. These served with the French Marines, and saw wide-scale service in the 1950s and onwards, noticeably in the French Indochina War, the war which would evolve into the Vietnam War. In this war, before the French pulled out, it was found that the 37mm gun already on the LVT-4 wasn't very sufficient. Due to this finding, a 40mm Bofors cannon was added to the tank, which was thought to perform better against anti-infantry and anti-tank roles. While the LVT-4/40 wasn't enough to save the French in real life, what's it like in War Thunder? Well boys, the LVT-4 is a rank 2 battle rating 2.3 light tank located in the French tech tree. This is a premium vehicle and is unlocked by partaking in the Battle Pass River Hunter, getting to the rank of at least 14. Getting the rank of 14 gives you a coupon for the vehicle, but this coupon cannot be sold. At rank 16, there is also a camouflage. Obtaining the vehicle is one thing, but what about putting it up on our lineup? Well, to train the crew of this tank, it'll cost you 2,300 silver lions. Being a rank 2 vehicle, you may as well pick up the Expert and Ace qualification, costing 15,000 silver lions for the Expert and 110 golden eagles for the Ace qualification. While this isn't hugely important, it will make you even more dominant on the battlefield. In terms of the repair cost, and of course again due to it being rank 2, it isn't a massive figure, only 200 silver lions. Going on to the rewards, and when playing with a premium account and in realistic battles, you can expect an RP modifier of 336% and a silver line modifier of 285%. In terms of customization, we have several camouflages available for golden eagles, as well as a camouflage unlocked at rank 16 of the battle pass. So lads, with several other War Thunder content creators saying that this thing is blatantly overpowered, just what is it about this vehicle that makes it so good? And should you buy the battle pass to get this vehicle? Stick around to find out. Moving on to the engine and performance, and the LVT is powered by an engine producing 250 horsepower. Combined with the vehicle's weight of 17 tons, it gives this tank a power to weight ratio of 14.7 horsepower per ton. While this isn't great, you have to remember it is a battle rating 2.3 vehicle, and it is a large vehicle at that, so I'm fairly confident when saying that it is fairly snappy in this tank. It accelerates rather well, and you have decent top speeds, being able to achieve a top speed of 40 km per hour. However, the reverse speed of 5 km per hour is pretty lacking. The tank feels fun to drive, it accelerates fairly quickly, and as I mentioned, it has a decent top speed. The tank is quite cumbersome though, as you can see it is a very large vehicle, and you will tend to bash into things when you're driving around tight maps. The tank is also amphibious. You can just go into the water and mess around a bit, but this is a gimmick and it will not get you any kills. It will make you slow and incredibly obvious. While you can use this thing to meme a little bit, I generally avoid the water. Moving on to the armor and survivability, and the first thing to mention is that this tank has a crew of 5 men, with 2 drivers in the front, 2 gunners in the middle, and a single guy just chilling in the back. The tank is obviously quite large, and the crew members are spaced quite far apart. This means that an AP round or an APHE round going into the side or front of the vehicle isn't likely to one-shot the tank, as the blast radius isn't really big enough to destroy all crew members. The story is different however with high explosive rounds. As we'll see shortly, the armour is very thin, and the tank is of course open topped. This makes you incredibly vulnerable to high explosive, artillery, and worst of all, enemy aircraft. Well, moving on to the armour, we can see that our lower frontal plate is only 6.3mm thick. This is pathetic, and 50 caliber rounds will be able to pass through this. Our upper frontal plate is slightly better, being 12.7mm thick. Again, 50 cals can go straight through this, so you are pretty much vulnerable to everything with a 50 cal or bigger. So while you do have a large internal volume to soak up those shells, you cannot physically rely on your armour to bounce. Overall, the survivability of the LVT is surprisingly good actually. While you will frequently lose a crew member during a fight, an enemy tank firing around centre of mass is likely to knock out at least one crew member every time you go into a battle. That's something that you just have to live with. Due to most enemy tanks at battle rating 2.3 mainly firing solid shot, the damage done by these rounds isn't really amazing, and you'll be surprised just how many rounds you can tank. Now then, moving on to the firepower. As I mentioned in the introduction, the LVT-4/40 is armed with the 40mm Bofors L60 cannon. Originally developed in the 1930s, it saw wide-scale use during World War II and later into the early stages of the Cold War. You can carry 384 rounds in total and fire every 0.6 seconds. The mount for this gun was originally used for an anti-aircraft mount, so it has a very good gun elevation of 87 degrees, near vertical, but the downside is to have a very terrible gun depression, with only being able to depress the gun 3 degrees. This poor gun depression, in combination with the sheer size of the vehicle, does make it quite hard to shoot down at opponents, especially if they're small, like several of the Italian tanks. It's also hard to go hull down, because you physically can't shoot the gun if you go up a slight cliff. You shouldn't really be camping in this tank though, just go straight towards the enemy and shoot them in the face. Quickly moving on to the ammunition, we have two types available. First up, we have a fragmentary incendiary tracer round. This should be used against light targets, such as enemy planes. Travels at 874 meters per second and can penetrate 3mm of armor. Just your standard high explosive round. Next up, we have the M81A1. This is an armor-piercing tracer belt. It travels at 874 meters per second, but can penetrate 72mm of armor at 10 meters, and at 500 meters, 58mm of armor. These two rounds are the only ammunition available to you. You can take a belt of pure high explosive, a belt of pure armor piercing, or a mixed belt. I recommend taking mainly armor piercing and a few high explosive rounds for use against enemy planes. We then also have two 50 caliber machine guns mounted either side of the 40mm. Each one of these guns contains 1,200 rounds of ammunition and can penetrate up to 31mm, with its armor piercing belt made up of armor piercing incendiary tracer, incendiary, and pure armor piercing bullets. At a low bat rating of 2.3, these 50 cals are just as lethal as a 40mm. In a down tier or at your own bat rating of 2.3, the combination of these two guns is insane. While the 50 cals will struggle to get kills at 3.3 in a full up tier, the 40mm is still incredibly powerful at all battle ratings. Not only is it potent against enemy ground targets, but due to its nature of an anti-aircraft gun, it's also potent against slow flying planes. Before we get into the conclusion, let me know down below what you guys think of the LVT-4/40, and which tank, plane, ship or helicopter you guys would like to see reviewed next. For the price of 2,000 golden eagles and 14 levels of grinding, the LVT-40 is a pretty good reward in my opinion. Although it is only a rank 2, it will get you past the hardest parts of the French tech tree, mainly the first and second ranks, infamous for being awful. This tank, when combined with the B1 Tur, give the French an incredibly powerful 2.3 lineup. For in terms of game balance however, this tank is pretty overpowered at the minute. Its 40mm autocannon can literally just punch through pretty much everything on the battle rating at 2.3, and its 50 cals can get through most things. This firepower, combined with a massive hull, basically just eats shots, allowing you to pump out damage while taking very little in return. This tank is fun to play, effective at grinding, and fairly overpowered at the minute. You probably will see a battle rating increase to around 2.7 or 3.0, but they'll probably only really do that next patch. You could criticise it for being rank 2, so you can only really use it to grind out rank 3, but for a premium vehicle that costs effectively €14, I'd say that this is a pretty good purchase, especially if you plan on grinding out the rest of the battle pass. Alright lads, I hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, please do consider subscribing to the channel. You can also leave a like and a comment, which again also boosts me in the algorithm, helping my channel to grow. You can also follow me on Twitter as well as Twitch, and if you're a huge fan of the channel, you can become a member of the YouTube channel, which will give you a unique icon next to your comment, in both comments under videos and on YouTube live streams. Once again, thank you very much for watching this far into the video lads, and I'll see you in the next one.